trainers, I'm Professor Truffler, and I'm here with another video full of poker facts and poker fun. In this video we're going to take a look at the rotation for the 2019 season of the Pokemon trading card game. Now, whether you look at rotation as a corporate cash grab or a way to keep the game feeling fresh, there is no doubt that playing Pokemon this coming year is going to be very different from last season. So without further ado, let's take a look at some of the cards we'll be saying farewell to, and the cards that might replace them, starting with the Pokémon. First off, we have Octillery from Breakthrough, with its Abyssal Hand ability, letting you make your hand up to 5 cards. This little guy was so useful for drawing cards, whether it's refreshing your hand after you've drained it of resources, or recovering after an end to 1 or 2. Its closest replacement is probably Oranguru from Sun and Moon, with its Instruct ability, but that only lets you draw up to 3 cards, not quite as useful. Zoroark GX's Trade ability, letting you discard 1 card to draw 2, also covers some of Octillery's usefulness, and we're certainly going to see a lot of that card. Also from Breakthrough, we have a couple of support Pokemon. Zoroark was very useful for its stand-in ability that let it jump into the active position without using your retreat for the turn, and Mindjack was a great attack for colourless energy that could do 160 with a full bench, 190 with Choice Band. For a non-GX attacker, that's not half bad. Its ability shows up again with Dawn Wings to Necrozma GX from Ultra Prism, but that's almost exclusively reserved for Psychic-type decks. Then there's Mr. Mime, pretty much only ever used for its bench barrier ability. It saw a bit of niche play to protect the bench from Buzzwole and Alolan Ninetales and other Pokemon that target the bench. If it's a big worry in your local metagame, Celestial Storm has Sky Pillar, a stadium card that will keep your benched Pokemon safe from your opponent's attacks. The time has finally come to say goodbye to Greninja and Greninja Break. Its Shadow Stitching attack shut off abilities, and Giant Water Shuriken did some serious damage to any Pokemon, letting it snipe basics on the bench or finish off big Pokemon. There were even a few sightings of it at Worlds. And if you were holding out with Volcanion EX, I'm afraid it's making its E-exit too. Most Volcanion decks were overshadowed by newer entries, but anyone still using it will need to find something to replace it. You were good while you lasted, old friends. And to round up our Pokemon, we've got a handful that we used for their abilities rather than their attacks. Garbodor, the one from Breakpoint, not the Trashalance Garbodor from Guardians Rising, we're going to see a lot of that one, has an ability called Garbotoxin that shut off abilities as long as it had a Pokemon tool attached. Decks that use abilities, that's most of them, are a little bit safer now, and it's not quite so important to have a whole bunch of field blowers in your deck to remove those Pokemon tools. Then we've got Mew from Fates Collide, whose ability Memories of Dawn let you use any attack from your basic Pokemon without risking a GX attacker that might give up 2 prizes. It forced your opponent to find that Guzma to get those 2 prizes. The newer Marshadow GX from Burning Shadows mixes it up a bit by letting you use any attack from a basic Pokemon in your discard pile. A bit more risky, since it's a little harder to get your Pokemon back out of the discard pile, and it is itself a 2-prize attacker, but it also means your opponent isn't safe just because they knocked out your big GX. And lastly for Pokemon, we have Starmie from Evolutions and its Space Beacon ability that let you fetch energies from the discard pile by discarding a card. Again, some fairly niche use, but there are a lot of recovery cards rotating out. It's going to be even harder to get things out of your discard pile. Speaking of getting things out of the discard pile, let's move on to trainers. To start with, Super Rod is rotating out. If you want to get energies out of your discard, you might want Energy Recycle System from Celestial Storm that lets you put 1 energy from your discard into your hand, or shuffle 3 back into your deck. If you want to get Pokemon out, you'll need Rescue Stretcher from Guardians Rising or Burning Shadows that lets you do the same as Energy Recycle System, but with Pokemon. Special Charge is also rotating, meaning your special energies are going to be much harder to get back too. This also means that Enhanced Hammers are even more valuable, as your opponent is really going to struggle to get back the double colourless or beast energies they really need. On the topic of getting things back, it's a proper goodbye to Puzzle of Time. Not only is it rotating out of Standard, it's also now banned in Expanded. Playing 2 puzzles at once, or double puzzle as the youths say, quote, enables a lot of powerful combos. Removing this card from the environment will affect how many decks are constructed, which will hopefully make the expanded format feel fresh and different. End quote. With how many different moving parts there are in Expanded and the hundreds of different cards there are, I'm really impressed that so far there's only been 7 banned cards. But either way, both Standard and Expanded are going to feel different without it. With it and other recovery cards going, players are going to have to be conscious of their resources and what they're throwing away with an Ultra Ball or a trade. Energy is also going to play a big part, with both Professor's Letter, that let you find 2 basic energies from your deck, and Max Elixir, that let you power up your benched basics rotating out. With cards like Metagross GX and Malamar letting you power up from the discard, I don't think energy is going to be hard to get hold of, just harder. Also rotating out is Floatstone. Good old Floatstone letting you retreat for free, get your active out of danger, or pop it on something with an ability to move itself around, and you could get yourself out of status conditions or tricky attack effects. Escape Board helps for Pokemon with a retreat cost of 1, but for the others we're probably going to see good old Humble Switch a bit more, and Guzma is going to be just as important as ever. And moving on to our supporter cards, the most interesting one for me at least is Professor Sycamore. Now this harks back to Professor Oak all the way back in base set, and between Professor Sycamore and Professor Juniper we've had a card with this effect since the Black and White era. So this is going to take quite a bit of getting used to for a lot of trainers. I'm certainly going to miss drawing those 7 cards, and even more so the no-hand Sycamore High Five. But with Copycat letting you shuffle and draw up to your opponent's hand size, Cynthia letting you shuffle and draw 6, Lily letting you draw up to 6 or 8 on your first turn, and Hala letting you shuffle and draw 4 cards, or 6 if you've used your GX attack, I don't think draw support is going to be too much of an issue. We're going to see less hand disruption too, with N rotating out, no more being N to 1, thank goodness. Illimer might see some play, with each player shuffling and drawing 6 or 3 cards, but as it depends on a coin flip, and most decks want to minimise random events, I'd be quite surprised. We will probably see some shuffle and draw 4 from Judge, which could get a little confusing for the people judging the events, and perhaps some peeking red card. 2 other supporters going are Bridget, an excellent turn 1 play that will either get replaced with something like Pokemon Fan Club for 2 Pokemon, maybe even Apricorn Maker for all those Ultra Balls or later on Timer Balls, or with Lily for that excellent 8-card hand on turn 1. And Skylar is rotating, which is a pain mostly for Stage 2 decks needing those rare candies. And last but not least, Parallel City. Perfect for disrupting someone's setup and forcing them down to 3 bench spaces. We might see a few pseudo-woodos reducing people to 4 bench spaces, especially with Zoroark's Riotous Beating attack doing more damage for each of their Pokemon in play. The meta is definitely going to change and develop over time as trainers come up with new strategies and combos, and especially when new sets and new cards come out. But I very much look forward to seeing which archetypes come out on top. But to finish up this video, your random Pokemon fact of the day. Did you know that the card Apricorn Maker uses the same art in its Skyridge printing all the way back in 2003 as it does in its Celestial Storm printing 15 years later in 2018? In addition, the same artist did the full art version in Celestial Storm, Kagemaru Himeno. Now, she's been doing art since the Jungle expansion, including the original Birthday Pikachu and the original Jigglypuff card, which is still one of my favourite card arts. Now, if you've got any questions, comments or concerns, let me know in the comment section below. And remember, trainers, stay safe as you walk through that tall grass.